Pierce Brosnan has just made a disclosure that no one saw coming. The 71-year-old ex-James Bond is facing the worst that life has to offer. His first wife succumbed to ovarian cancer at the age of 43. Then his daughter, who shared the same disease, left him when she was 41. Now a situation has forced him to confront his worst fear. The most fearless spy in the world is fighting a war that he is sure to lose. And what he plans to do next has everyone on edge. Pierce Brosnan was born on May 16, 1953, in Drogheda, Ireland. He did not come from a wealthy background. No one from his side, and most importantly, he never had a father. In fact, his dad, a carpenter named Thomas, disappeared so suddenly that his son never managed to retain his face, voice, and even presence in his mind. It's as though he disappeared into thin air. His mother, May, is the one who struggled to keep things together. She worked as a nursing professional, keeping a life together that seemed to have fallen apart from the very start. But one thing that changed for May Brosnan in 1957 is that she made a very difficult choice. She left for London in search of a job, leaving 4-year-old Pierce back in Ireland. This choice was necessary, but it led to a void in Pierce's childhood life as well. This, which was initially meant to be a temporarily prolonged parting, led to a prolonged stay of 7 years. Throughout, he started living with his relatives. Initially with his grandparents in Navan, but later on with his uncle and aunt in Trim. Every home meant a different set of rules, a different educational setup, different people, and different face. Pierce never managed to get adjusted to a particular setup, always lagging behind as an outsider. Teachers realized that this kid has a strange quality to him. The boy is intelligent, but he is an introvert, always gazing at the sky, never really with him. But that changed in 1964. At the age of 11, he had to shift to Green, Scotland. This happened because his mother had remarried. Her partner, William Carmichael, is a factory worker. A very nice patient, but a strange fellow for a boy who has experienced life with a set of absence from his childhood. Happy to see his mother, yes, but also angry. Now she had a new lover, a new man in her life, a man who wasn't his father. But William tried anyway. He taught Pierce small things, fishing, repairing, trusting. He never pushed too far. In fact, he never replaced anyone. One day, William took a young Pierce to the movies. The year, 1964. The film, Goldfinger. The on-screen presence, Sean Connery as James Bond, was electric. This particular night changed everything. Pierce didn't see Bond as a fictional figure. Bond represented the opposite of what he'd experienced. Bond had strength. Bond had style. Bond had control. And he desperately wanted to be that. Later, when he'd reached the age of 16, he'd make another daring move. Pierce abandoned his schooling in London, choosing St. Martin's School of Art on a scholarship. No funds, no goals, but a burning desire to paint. The styles of Francis Bacon and Lucian Freud fascinated him. Then, acting even crossed his mind. Instead, he liked illustration, design. At that age, he lived on bread and tea, while his fellow students came from richer backgrounds. Pierce's ambition, to prove he belonged. But destiny had other plans. In 1971, still studying art for Pierce, he happened upon a theater workshop in South London. There, a fire eater trained his skills. Pierce, rather than watching him, elected to imitate. That single impulse in his life changed his course entirely. The onlookers saw potential in him, a blend of audacity plus charisma. They asked him to join them. Prior, he'd never acted, but things suddenly fell into place. It seemed once more he'd stepped into a realm of danger, a realm of charm, similar to James Bond's own journey from chemistry to cinematic glory. Following his joining the Drama Centre London, he trained there for 3 full years from 1973 to 1976, when he worked even harder than he'd worked on his art. The art of acting came from an extremely rigorous environment, where over 60% of students abandoned. Instructors who instructed with brutal honesty, tearing his students apart, rebuilding anew. Some broke down. A few even experienced a nervous breakdown. Not so with Pierce, though, who continued to fight, working part-time, studying Shakespeare intensely. In fact, he even trained in mime shows and circus skills. It cost him £1,200 a year, a lot of money back then. But Pierce never gave up. In 1976, he landed his first major acting job in a stage play called Wait Until Dark. It happened to be a thriller, and he played a part that made audiences uncomfortable. The director liked him because he seemed cold, disturbingly so. This trait really worked for him. The following year, he opted for a challenging role in a Tennessee Williams play called The Red Devil Battery Sign. This play had failed in the United States, but Pierce managed to make it a success in London stages. Critics liked his performance. It seemed that people started taking him seriously now. Next, he opted for a film career. In 1980, he appeared in Blink and You'll Miss It in The Mirror Cracked with Elizabeth Taylor. This time, he appeared on screen for less than 30 seconds. In that short span, he earned him a measly £50, but it marked the beginning of his acting career. That same year, he appeared in The Long Good Friday, alongside Helen Mirren and Bob Hoskins. This time, he played a small IRA member. The film didn't exactly become an instant blockbuster, but later on, it became a cult classic. This is how Pierce Brosnan toiled away, secretly making his way to stardom. In 1982, Pierce Brosnan barely registered a presence in the United Kingdom apart from some small acting projects for British television and theater. Nothing significant, that is, until he surprisingly auditioned for a small acting part in a brand new television series called Remington Steele. Not the starring part, but the role of a murder victim. That should have been his acting debut, his swan song, his finale to a small acting career. But NBC, the television network behind Remington Steele, seemed to see otherwise. They liked him, but not for a supporting role, mind you, but for the leading part. This changed his life forever. The plan for Remington Steele, originally called for a mature, 50-plus American con artist. Brosnan, on the other hand, was 29, Irish, with a very faint chance of landing a part on the United States television screen. But he landed the role, a historical anomaly, really, when he was pitted against over 200 actors, most of whom were household names from the United States. How did he pull it off, one might ask? It so happened that his Irish accent nearly ruined his chance to pursue an acting career on Remington Steele. The heads were nervous that viewers back in the United States would not take too kindly to a non-American in the starring role. Then, once he took on the part, he became Remington Steele. Cool, smooth, mysterious, and viewers loved him for it. The show debuted on October 1st, 1982. Right from the very beginning, it was a success. NBC's second highest-rated new series. In the first year alone, 15.6 million viewers per week watched. It hadn't been a smooth ride, though. The show actually ended after the fourth season in 1986. Viewers were understandably irate. The studio had a change of heart. It came back for one last season. The final episode aired in February 1987 with close to 26 million viewers. That's a going-away party most television shows can only dream of. Remington Steele peaked when it generated NBC a sum of over $50 million per year, plus advertising alone. International sales brought in a supplementary sum summing to $200 million. The television show has been translated into over 80 countries. Something strange happened in America, though. Between 1983 and 1987, requests for private detective licenses increased a staggering 340%. Brosnan's cool, clever, and mysterious persona clearly made a statement that forced viewers to pay attention. There was, however, a cost for success, though. No more than 2 months after Remington Steele debuted on air, critics reported that Brosnan should be the next James Bond. In January 1983, Entertainment Weekly magazine dubbed him the most Bond-like actor since Sean Connery, in line for a role in a television adaptation of a James Bond flick. It wasn't long after that, though, that Bond producer Albert Cubby Broccoli contacted him. It seems he had been following his progress, taking a particular interest in him. In 1984, rumors broke out in full force. NBC chose to play along, even going so far as to publish a colorful advertisement hinting heavily at Brosnan's secret agent persona. The cover page of Television Guide magazine pictured him asking the next 07. This is duly reinforced when even the wife of his supervisor, Ian Fleming, said that he embodied exactly what she had originally set her sights on when casting Bond characters. During this time, Brosnan started receiving serious accolades, though. That same year, he had been nominated once more for a Golden Globe Award for his appearance in Nancy Astor, alongside a host of highly esteemed actors, including such giants as Anthony Hopkins, John Gielgud, et al. Brosnan, while hardly a lightweight himself, came a close second, though losing by a bare 3 votes. This impressed even the real Astor family, who had been against the series. However, his own Bond journey would not be easy. Most people believe that he was approached for the role of Bond in 1985. Not really. This happened in 1983, in View to a Kill. Roger Moore was ambivalent about making another movie, and Brosnan's turn came. The two had met on the set of For Your Eyes Only, where Brosnan's wife, Cassandra Harris, appeared in a small role. Broccoli liked him at one glance. "If he can act, he's my man," he said. But the studio freaked out. They offered him a massive amount of money, more than $3.5 million, so he came back. This pushed back Brosnan's chance to shine, yet again. Then, things went from bad to worse for him in 1986. Remington Steele had been canceled. But when the reports came that Brosnan might play Bond, Remington Steele's viewers increased exponentially. NBC saw an opportunity. They undid the canceling of Remington Steele and ordered a short 5th season. Brosnan was still bound by a contract. This meant that he couldn't shoot Bond. Ouch. The publicity he had received for his association with Bond came back to haunt him. NBC offered him a spot on Remington Steele, his 5th season, but he had to decline because he was bound by a contract. He still managed to finish his last season on Remington Steele, but the producers of Bond proceeded with another casting, Timothy Dalton, who happened to be a friend of Brosnan's. This had a drastic effect on Brosnan's acting career, as well as on Bond's. Brosnan appeared on screen reluctantly, but he managed to make a smile on his face. Dalton's interpretation of Bond is best described as meaner and grittier. This didn't go over well with audiences, as License to Kill failed enormously in the U.S., raking in merely $34 million. Brosnan, on the edge of his seat, knew he could do a much better job. Between 1986 and 1994, the lost years, Brosnan didn't vanish into the limbo of obscurity. Brosnan made apt decisions. In The Fourth Protocol in 1987, he acted as a spy in a Cold War thriller. It wasn't Bond, but who's complaining? In Nomad 1986, he chose a supernatural part, proving that he is a varied actor. Even Diet Coke's commercial, where he played a serious tuxedo-clad hero, spoke volumes of his diverse acting repertoire, something that hinted heavily at his association with Bond. P.S. Brosnan met Cassandra Harris in the late 1970s. She was a working actress, already known as such, born Sandra Colleen Waits in Sydney, Australia, in 1948. The attraction was instantaneous. Pierce didn't set out to fall in love. He simply thought she was beautiful. Then, something changed. They started living together in Wimbledon. On December 27, 1980, they married. Cassandra had recently gone through a difficult divorce, so this new beginning meant the world to her. In that relationship, she had 2 children, named Charlotte and Christopher. Pierce didn't think twice. He plunged into their lives, as if he'd been a part of them all along. Cassandra's ex-husband, Dermot Harris, passed away from a heart attack. Then, in 1986, Pierce adopted the 2 kids legally. They'd take his name. It was more than that, though. Pierce never had a daddy of his own. Therefore, he invested wholly in being the dad he never had. I wasn't a dad. I was just Pierce, then I became daddy. In 1983, Cassandra and Pierce had a son together. They named him Sean. That made them 5. It felt complete, full, and warm. The kids loved each other, and Pierce's acting career started taking off, but the family always came first. Pierce wanted to bring them the same happiness he had been denied in his childhood. He made sure they felt protected, happy, and loved. Then a really special thing happened in 1981. Cassandra landed a role in the Bond film, For Your Eyes Only. She played a Bond girl before Pierce even thought of becoming 0007. The thing is, Cassandra thought Pierce had what it takes to play Bond, too. She encouraged him to go for it. The producer of the film, Albert Broccoli, liked him. Cassandra liked him. She encouraged Pierce to go for it. Broccoli liked him. In fact, he thought Pierce would make a fantastic Bond. However, Pierce had a problem. He couldn't take on the role because he still had a contract with Remington Steele at that point. He couldn't leave it to go play Bond. Not yet, at least. Cassandra really wanted him to take on Bond, though. Alas, she never got to see it happen in real life. It wasn't meant to be, at least not just yet. In 1987, Pierce's life changed dramatically. Pierce was on the set of Deceivers in India, but Cassandra started to feel really ill. They returned to London quickly. The doctors broke some terrible news. Cassandra had ovarian cancer. Not some small tumor that could be removed with a simple surgery, but all over the place, bad stuff. Pierce described, "From day one, we had a fight on our hands. The next 4 years were brutal. Cassandra had 8 surgeries, a year and a half of chemo. Her hair fell out. But in an incredible show of strength, she stayed strong, even when she questioned every treatment she received. She made all her own decisions, too. A real fighter, Cassandra is. Pierce has been by her side throughout this ordeal.